Have you ever played Spore? Well, there's apparently a, 2.8 million sales by 2009, doubling it because of its popularity from streamers and Steam sales, divided by 2.3 billion YouTube users, times 100, 0.24347826087% chance that you did. That's probably not likely, since this game is actually surprisingly popular even to this day, but I am not doing a survey. So since I highly doubt that you're in the 0.2, I'm not saying the number again, let me fill you in. Spore was a 2008 PC-only kids game, which might explain the poor sales for a number of reasons I'll probably display on screen. The game was essentially a 3D creation tool for creatures. Yeah, and you can make a lot in Spore too, like Optimus Prime, or this creature that has too many legs, or me! Oh wow, I'm ugly as hell. Point being, Spore can make a lot of things. So, how'd I discover Spore? Was it YouTube? Once? No. I found out about Spore through a free creature creator demo that got installed on a school computer around 2010-ish. The first creatures I've made, I thankfully lost them all, but rest assured they did not look good. That's saying something, because my creatures nowadays aren't the greatest either. But as I've already alluded to, Spore's more than just creatures. Buildings, cars, boats, planes, spaceships, and if you have the DLC, full-on missions! Although I'm not a fan of that. Okay, that's a good enough introduction. What is Spore actually like? Time to spend an overly long amount of time explaining it. In the cell stage, you are a helpless little thing, a little rotund creature. Or are you a pill? Are you somewhere in between? Are you a peanut? This stage asks one simple question. Herby, carny, omnivore. This affects the rest of the game, might I add. You swim in the primordial soup with friendly plant-eating herbivores and ferocious meat-eating carnivores. You can pick either side in this evolutionary arms race, and if you play your cards just right, you can become an omnivore. Spoiler alert, this is the best option for the later stages. But it's not just about eating food, it's about murder and speed. You can unlock parts from either meteors or murder, and these parts will then allow you to become even better at finding meteors because you'll be faster, or murder because I don't think people are going to mess with the creature that's built like the tinfoil ball from Diary of a Wimpy Kid. After you eat enough, you move on to... This is where the meat of Spore is, or plant if you chose herbivore. After growing legs, you surface on the land, ready to do one of two things. Befriend a creature with an arbitrary game of Simon Says repeated thrice, or the more fun option... murder! In this stage, the game decides if you're social, predatorial, or an adaptable mix of both. What makes this stage interesting is the comically robust creature creator. I mean, seriously, this is a game from 2008. Like, Maxis! Their other game was The Sims. You'd think they wouldn't have so many people on this, but here they are. Health things? There's 2 variants for each level, and 3 if you have the DLC. Skin, you can pick from either a pre-made one or make your own. With 4 aggressive stats and 4 different social stats, you can actually spend a really long time in the creature stage, just flying around, killing creatures, growing stronger, and before you know it, there's no nests left. Oops. Adding to this is that the previous stage has actual consequences, as I mentioned earlier, influencing what you can eat. On top of that, it gives you an ability. Whether that ability is singing real good, screaming real good, or summoning backup dancers to do the work for you, that is purely based on your own decisions. On top of that, you can add other creatures to your pack. These can be creatures that you socialize with, or the ultra-powerful rogues. And this doesn't even cover some of the smaller details, like your other creatures showing up in the game, the epics, the slight changes to terrain generation every time, and so on and so forth. No matter what you do, it ends the same. After this bar hits full, congratulations, you win! Now get out. Tribe stage shakes it up a little bit. You can't customize what your creature looks like anymore, so whatever it looked like at the end of creature stage is what it'll look like for the rest of the game. So if your creature looks dumb, it sucks to be you. But don't worry, you can outfit them with new stats like gathering, combat, social, and health. Your enemy this time is different tribes of other somewhat sentient animals. See, as the game goes on, you become more and more detached from a single member of your species. No longer are you one creature, you're now guiding a tribe to attack or befriend other tribes. Similar to Creature Stage, you either destroy their hut to defeat them, or play Simon Says with 3 instruments. Like the stages before, you just do this while also gathering food to make new buildings and make babies. Wait, how do you make a baby with food? Actually, you know what? I don't want to know. At this point, you're completely dominant over the world, with only your species having control of the planet. The problem is, you'll see the world through different lenses. The decisions you made in the tribal stage affect how you start this stage. If you were a social tribe, you become religious, converting the world to your beliefs by invading them and using propaganda. If you were aggressive, you're pretty much the same, being military, who invade and conquer other cities, leaving nothing left when you go. Wait, isn't it a tad odd that religion and war have so much in common? Economic, which you get for being adaptable on the tribal stage, is, in my personal opinion, the hardest of the three. You have to trade with your allies and then buy their cities, which sounds easy enough, except no, it really isn't. Because of diplomacy, trading with allies makes you enemies, and therefore, when you buy your allies out of existence, you've got no allies left, only those enemies. So it becomes a game of heavily fortified cities that try to get the most spore bucks out of them while also having to defend religiously, meaning you have entertainment too, bribing your enemies until they like you and then trading them out of existence too, telling your allies to go to war and praying they win so that you can buy their cities they've just cost men for. In other words, Civilization Stage has you pick one of the three evils: religion, war, and capitalism. The Final Frontier. The space stage is the final stage of Spore. Once you're here, there is no real objective. Well, what do? You colonize, you trade, you terraform. Oh, you could go on galactic adventures. Oh, that costs real money. It's a DLC. When all else fails you, there's always one thing you can lean back on: war crimes! And remember, kids, it's not a war crime if you don't get caught. Disclaimer: Yuxaredd is not actually a lawyer. Do not take advice from Yuxaredd. Yuxaredd's advice is not legally applicable in court, as the court of law does not recognize mechanical entities under 5 years old as real people. If you need legal advice on war crimes, ask a member of your government, preferably one of the conservative ones. And finally, what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to save the galaxy from the Groks and get to the center of the universe. That's kind of dumb. You're kind of dumb. I'm kind of dumb. We're kind of dumb, and that's basically it. See, a lot of Spore's space stage sees a mixture of elements we've seen in previous stages. City building's back from the civilization stage. Dealing with other equally sentient species is back from the tribal stage. You're kind of tied to a single entity, this one spaceship, which is kind of like the creature and cell stage. And you know what, in hindsight, maybe this wasn't the best comparison. Describing the space stage is easy if you look at it the right way. The space stage focuses on a few main traits. You get a colony that produces spice that you can sell to other nations. With the money, you can sell the spice to get more colonies or weapons, and the cycle repeats. To put it into simpler terms: war, cash, colony. 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 War, cash. And that's the whole of Spore. All 5 stages. What else is there to say? Why do I love this game so much, other than the fact that I have a burning, undying love for games with create modes? Okay, let's go over the good and the bad of Spore. Starting with a good point, this creature creator is actually amazing. It's surprisingly robust, flexible, and all that good stuff you'd want. For an EA game from 2008, damn! For an EA game from 2008 that went through a development hell, damn! But this comes at a major flaw. You see, with a game like Little Big Planet or Mod Nation Races, the level designer is the game, which means that making the story mode for the game is easy enough. But Spore isn't levels, it's creatures. So the solution is to have a randomly generated world. But this only tends to go as far as the color of the world, the plants, and the structures. Every game plays arguably the same: cell stage, creature stage, tribe stage, civilization stage, and space. Luckily, Spore has one thing that gives it a massive replayability bonus: consequences. The consequence system is a tiny but neat addition. Essentially, the 4 decisions you make in the first 4 stages actually influence what you get in the 5th stage. There are 10 different consequences, and each of them sees a slightly different combination of reds, blues, and greens. Each one makes the space stage slightly different, as it gives you a different ability and a few different stats. Not to mention, the empires surrounding you will change each time. And here's the cool part: since all save files exist on the same world, you can actually find your other creatures' empires and interact with it. Although you can't actually do anything, no trading and no war. While we're on the topic, the space stage's start is kind of eh. You're basically forced to do the same thing every time. This is identical tutorial. That's fine, but it gets tiring very quick. But other than that, space stage is cool. Admittedly, it's very easy to underestimate it when you first get there, but there's some really cool stuff you can find in the space stage. A final idea I want to leave you with is this: it is safe to say that Spore as a game is unique enough that the odds of experiencing the same creatures on the same planet with the same creature is statistically improbable and practically impossible. Okay, let's wrap this up. Spore fits into a very strange niche for me. It sits alongside Little Big Planet, Minecraft, Gary's Mod, and Mod Nation Races. I've always had a massive soft spot for this game, to the point where I went through a phase near the end of 2020 where I played nothing but this game. No wonder my friends hated me back then. There's something about creator games that grabs my brain and refuses to let go. Spore might be a little formulaic and buggy, but I love it for what it is. It's not the most graphically impressive game, and it's not the most nuanced. If I had to put it in a tier list of my favourite games, it would certainly crack the top 10, and maybe even the top 5, but it was probably beaten out by a different 2008-based creator game. Spore isn't my favourite game, despite what all my ramblings might make you believe, but it's always going to hold a very special place in my hypothetical robot heart. But as with Mod Nation Races, I've fully accepted that it will never get a sequel. Spore is, and has, been dead since the early 2010s. But I'm sure someday, maybe about 3 days before EA's copyright on it expires, it'll get something new. Probably a half-assed port. So forgive me for not being the most excited. Goodbye forever, you magnificent nightmare fuel. Okay, now I just send this off, see what they think, and I'll have an answer in a couple of weeks. Everything's just going my way.